Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out Grail by developer Paul Lewitsky. This is from the LD28 competition, again with the theme of You Only Get One. I haven't done any LD games in a little while, but this is one that jumped out and looked very, very good. The thing that you only get one of in this case is you get one button. That button is the right arrow key, and our goal in Grail is, well, very simply to make our way, I suppose, to get the Holy Grail. And what seems to be, in my perception filter, I suppose, is sort of a reimagining in a 2D version of Sen's Fortress from Dark Souls. So we're going to be wandering around in a world full of tricks and traps, trying to avoid dangers, and hopefully make it to the end. So let's see what we can do here. We'll start up a game of Grail. This might be a rather short episode, but I think it's going to be a good one regardless. So our character here is on a very different color palette. Well, not a different color palette, but is very starkly contrasting the rather monochromatic, almost maybe a little bit darker green, but like almost a Game Boy green shade, which certainly gives the thing a good sense of ambience, I think. And your character, I have to say, now this is just my observation, maybe it's just me, but it looks a lot like Boba Fett. He or she, I guess you can't really tell. Not like it matters. So let's jump this gap here. We've got this big scary pendulum that we want to avoid. One hit kills, by the way. Oh crap, I've passed the lever. Alright, this is where we get into trouble territory. I actually can't do anything about going in the other direction whatsoever, and the character will auto-jump, by the way. So that's apparently the last frame with which you can stay on that platform and also not touch the pendulum. So let's just finish ourselves off there, and then we will respawn at the beginning. It's got a little bit of that, like, Volgar the Viking sense of, like, hardcore, platformy actioniness, except there's so little to interact with. It's just basically, very actually one button that we're using in all instances of the game right now. So we have to be a little bit judicious about how we make our plans here, because it's not like we can jump into a fight and start hacking and slashing away. These the jumping and the commands that you would use to normally fight something, those are all automated. So as soon as we get within range, I will do a strike towards one of those skeletons, and that takes a while. So I got to make sure that my timing is right for that, or just avoid combat completely. So it actually gives you a little bit of an option there, and that is a checkpoint, in case you couldn't figure that out. So we're going to make our way up here into what looks like another pendulum, and I'm just basically going to screw that by jumping directly into it. I think we could probably do a little better by maybe jumping much earlier, but then we've got to deal with the skeleton who's primed up to throw a sword at me, and I'm not totally into that, so we kind of want to avoid that. I'm imagining how cool this premise is as it is right now, and how much cooler it could even be if this was literally just the game that, I could see it being with all the buttons that are necessary to use for this exact situation. For combat, get your shield involved, get some parrying, get some dodging. I mean, I guess I just want 2D Dark Souls, sorry. Who doesn't, right? I mean, kind of a tempting thing. It's a very interesting thing, though, to think about a game being designed with the idea of only one linear function as to how you progress on it. There is no turning back. The only backward motion happens when you accidentally screw up and then you have to start something over again, which you'll see happen quite a few times here. And it's unfortunate, actually, that there's no death counter anywhere that I'm aware of. Alright, so these skeletons are only going to trigger these into dropping when they're in range of those buttons there on the ground. So right now, I'm actually... Oh, I could have just stood another second away and not gotten hit. But yeah, the skeletons are only triggering those at first, and then once they step away from them, we're not in any danger of that anymore. So we have to be, a little bit aware of the ranges of things, aware of where the skeletons are, and it's actually quite a bit of multitasking to do in a game about using one button and one button only. If you're actually perfect with your timing here, and I did this in my sound check just kind of by accident, you can actually jump over the pendulum and also over the skeleton. So that's kind of an interesting thing that maybe you could use to take the game through in another path. I could see there also being some achievements for something like this, where maybe you could finish the game without actually engaging in combat at all. I don't think that's actually possible, but it would be pretty sweet if the game was designed with that in mind. Yeah, I have to get better at using range to my advantage, because right now, since I can't back up, you are wherever you stop moving. So you gotta keep that in mind when you're trying to come up with a plan of how exactly you're gonna have a battle with one of these skeletons. I want to make sure that I trigger them, but then I stop, and then I start again. That's gonna be safe zone, I believe. And then let's let him Yeah, so it's actually probably the motion more than the proximity that's triggering the skeletons into attacking, and I'm going to hope that maybe they're... Uh-oh. This is dangerous. Okay. I was going to hope that maybe they're... Oh, God, there's a wheel behind me! Oh, I screwed up. Well, that'll crush the skeletons, too, so maybe I could use it to my advantage in some way. Although, I guess since I can't jump or move out of the way, it's kind of just there, isn't it? But I have to say this is a remarkably compelling adventure game. That I never really expected to see as much to in just one button. Like, you really don't consider quite how different experiences are going to be if you don't have that level of, like, deep interaction with it. I mean, there's enough here to actually have a really good time. And this sort of opens up a new door, and I'm hesitant to say this because, as you might know, I don't really cover anything of the sort on the channel, but I could easily see this working very, very well as a mobile game, and in fact, I think this could even spawn an entire genre of mobile games where there's basically a one-button touch adventure. This might even already exist, and I'm just not aware, because I'm not really clued in to the mobile market in any meaningful way. I mean, I have a few mobile games. They're mostly mainstream stuff. They're mostly games that I think a lot of you have heard of, despite my penchant for being a little bit on the outskirts of most of my indie game coverage. It doesn't always extend to mobile games. It's a weird world over there. Not that I'm here to harp on mobile games at all. Oh, yeah, alright. Well, that hitbox was a little bit larger than I was hoping it was. So there's clearly going to be a bit of repetition here, and pardon me for the maybe not the best gameplay, but it is certainly a lot of fun. And I do want to recommend the Grail to you. I think this is one of the more interesting LD games. I know I say this constantly, but whenever I run into one that's got an interesting premise that is a little bit surprising, and this one I feel is very much surprising, well, it's actually kind of got the whole package. It's going to be both in the aesthetic and also in the gameplay presentation, but it's got pretty much everything. You know, it feels good. For the fact that there's one button, there's not, I guess, a lot tangible about the game as it pertains to controls or anything. Oh, come on. He just didn't strike that time. That's not very good. But it's got sound effects that are pretty neat. I think it's certainly atmospheric. The sound of the pendulums, you know, swooshing in the wind is a lovely little detail. There's just enough background details as well that I think the environment feels well fleshed out. And it certainly puts the emphasis on the main character. I mean, you've got these little pillars in the back that are receding into the background, little archways. You've got a good amount of diverse content in terms of these traps. So far, each screen has been actually a totally different premise, which is a little shocking as well. So for a game that was made in 48 hours, I'm very, very impressed by this. And it certainly makes me want to go check out more by this developer, so I probably will do that. And I have to say, even the animations, for the most part, really well done. I think the running animation may be a little bit strange, but that's just the one thing. I think everything else looks great. Yeah, alright, it didn't trigger the attack there. Since there's no other button to attack with, it's just sort of like you're at the mercy of the game if it decides to let you for whatever reason. And, yep, get in range of the skeleton. That's going to hit me, but not him. Apparently skeletons have slightly longer range. If only I had a man-serpent greatsword. Can't have everything, though. And I'm very glad that there are checkpoints as well. I could even see this turning into a whole Metroidvania affair. I guess this is probably how games like La Mulana get started, don't they? But I really like the aesthetic, and I really do like the attention to detail. So this would certainly be something to elaborate upon if the developer felt so compelled as to do so. Obviously, no obligation, but I think I would certainly pay some money for a larger version of a game like this. I would suspect, though, that there probably aren't too many screens. If there are, I would be certainly quite surprised by that as well. Man, I'm playing really poorly. Just keep running right under those hooks, or spears, or whatever you want to call them. Javelins embedded in the ceiling. But I would love to hear you guys and your opinion on this stuff. How do you feel one-button fares for a game that could be fairly complex like this? Do you think this does justice to the concept of an adventure game? Do you think that this game has sort of like a whole package to it, like I just sort of asserted before? I mean, certainly you could probably get a little bit of music involved, but again, 48 hours is not a long time to make a game by any stretch. And when you have every other element of the package, you know, the animations, the collision, different varieties of art, aesthetic, things going on, all of that stuff comes together well. Adding music on top of things is certainly a whole nother affair that is not always for everybody. So I absolutely do not begrudge a developer if they don't get music quite to the point where I would think it would hopefully be in that amount of time. Oh, we made it. maybe. I hope that wasn't the button that I needed. Oh, crap. Alright, well, I guess that's a fitting way to end the episode. Wonder if that was like the final door or something. It might not have been. I hope it wasn't, actually. I'd like to see a lot more from this. But anyway, go play this. Link is going to be in the description. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you about anything in general. If you enjoyed this game, if you have comments about what you think it could be, what it is right now, how you feel about this concept, any games that you'd like to suggest for the series, all of that stuff is totally welcome. Please do encourage the discussion. That's what we're here to do. Indie Impressions is a discussion and critique-based series, so I would like to get you guys involved whenever possible. And of course, in the link for the game itself, aside from that, though, we also have social media links if you want to check out more about me and the series. I've got my Twitter, I've got my Facebook, I've got my Twitch page, and of course, indie-impressions.com, which is the website where all of these episodes live. I really like the challenge on this game, too. I'm glad that I'm not just breezing through it, despite that it can be a little frustrating replaying some of these screens over and over again. The checkpoint being there is quite nice, and I don't really begrudge it too much either. But anyway, I think I'll let you go for another day. Please do come back again tomorrow if you enjoyed what you saw today. New episodes go up every single day without fail. And of course, if you did enjoy it, feel free to leave some support. I absolutely do appreciate any support, whether that be a comment, a like, or if you're really into the series, consider subscribing as well. That helps out quite a bit too. So I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks very much for being here, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to you later.